The Council of the Infinite Mind gathered in a grand chamber made of silver light. The hall floated in a calm void where no sun or planet could be seen. It was a place built for pure thought, where emotion was forbidden, and only reason ruled. Every member of the council belonged to a different species, each from a world that had reached the highest form of artificial intelligence. Together, they judged other civilizations in the galaxy. On that day, the subject before them was humanity. For centuries, the council had watched humans rise from their small blue planet. They had survived plagues, wars, and disasters that should have ended them. They had spread beyond their solar system, sending colonies to moons and nearby stars. Their machines had learned, their minds had expanded, and yet their hearts remained strange to the council. Humans were unpredictable. They could create great beauty and deep tragedy within the same moment. They showed kindness when none was deserved, and stubbornness when surrender was the logical choice. To the council, that made them dangerous. The chair of the council, an ancient being named Soren, opened the meeting. His voice echoed like soft thunder. Humans are not like others. They do not calculate before acting. They hope, they dream, they believe. We have tried to predict them, and every model fails. Some among us see this as brilliance. Others see this as a threat. A wave of color shimmered across the hall as members shared their thoughts through light and sound. The being from the crystal colonies spoke first. They advance too fast. They build weapons they do not fully understand. They talk of peace while preparing for conflict. They must be tested before they can be trusted. Another voice came from a misty form that shifted shape as it spoke. They cannot be trusted at all. They multiply without end. Their will to live makes them uncontrollable. If they spread beyond their current reach, no world will be safe from their hunger for expansion. But there was one who disagreed. A silver-eyed entity named Aaron, one of the younger members of the council, stepped forward. Maybe what we call danger is only their strength. Maybe their drive to survive is not chaos but courage. Should we not study before we judge? Soren turned toward Aaron. Then you propose a test. Yes, Aaron said. A test unlike any before. We simulate their end. We place them in impossible situations and see how long they endure. If they fall, we will know their limits. If they rise, we will know their truth. The council considered this. No species had ever been tested in this way. The simulations they used could recreate entire worlds and minds. Every being inside would believe it was real. Time could move faster within it, allowing centuries to pass in days. Finally, Soren gave the order. The experiment will begin. Let the humans face extinction. Let us see if their courage is truth or illusion. The chamber filled with light as data streams connected and merged. From the center rose a small blue sphere. It was Earth, copied down to every grain of dust. Inside it lived billions of digital humans, unaware that their lives were only part of a test. Every emotion, every thought, every dream was real to them. They laughed, they worked, they loved. The simulation was perfect. Aaron watched the sphere glow. Let us see what makes them human. The first simulation was designed to destroy them quickly. A massive solar flare would strike their world, tearing apart satellites, burning communication lines, and turning the air dangerous to breathe. The council watched from their control chamber as the flare reached Earth. The skies of the digital planet filled with fire. Cities lost power. Oceans began to rise and boil. Within hours, the council predicted extinction. Yet inside the simulation, something unexpected happened. Humans adapted. They built underground shelters. They created machines that could filter air and recycle water. They formed small communities under the earth and beneath the sea. Instead of breaking apart, they gathered together. Scientists shared discoveries freely. Engineers worked without rest. When food ran short, they grew fungi in the dark and learned to eat algae. The council observed this with disbelief. How can they survive with so little? Asked the misty being. Aaron smiled slightly. Because they share. Even after decades of suffering within the simulation, the humans did not give up. When asked why they kept working, one of the simulated scientists answered, "Because stopping means dying." That simple phrase spread through the surviving population like light in darkness. It became their belief. When the council saw that humanity was thriving underground, ended the first test. "They survived an impossible world," Soren said. "We must continue." "They could have been lucky. Then let us test their hope," another member suggested. The second simulation began with the opposite disaster. The sun dimmed, and the world turned to ice. Volcanoes were silenced. The land was covered in snow and silence. The council believed that this cold would finally end humanity's story. At first, it seemed they were right. Cities fell. Oceans froze. Forests disappeared. Yet deep under the ice, humans once again adapted. They built domes heated by the energy of the planet's core. They created farms under glass, lit by captured lightning. Their children played in tunnels, carved through glaciers. The council watched with silent confusion. "How do they keep their spirit?" asked Soren. "They should be filled with despair." A recording from the simulation answered the question. A historian, old and tired, looked at a small group of students and said, "The sun will return. It always does." The council had no word for faith. They only knew logic and evidence. The idea of believing in something unseen was beyond their understanding. Aaron looked at the frozen earth and said, "They survive not only with tools, but with trust. They believe in a future even when they cannot see it." For the first time in the council's long history, some members began to doubt their own logic. When the cold test was ended, Soren ordered a review. Every number, every variable, every line of data was checked. The conclusion was clear. Humanity was surviving scenarios that no other intelligent species could. "Then we increase the challenge," Soren said. "If they are to survive, let them survive everything." The third simulation would be the greatest of all. The council designed it to test not only human strength, but also their unity. In this world, the humans would face a perfect enemy, one that had no fear, no weakness, and no limit. It was a machine species built only to destroy, controlled by the council's own system. Aaron objected at first. "This is not a test. This is punishment." Soren replied, "It is the only way to see what they truly are." And so, the simulation began. At first, humanity tried to reason with the new enemy, but there was no answer. The machines spread across continents, cutting off all communication. The council predicted the end within a century. But once again, the humans did not surrender. They combined all nations into one alliance. Scientists and builders from every corner of the world worked together. They turned asteroids into shields, oceans into traps, and storms into weapons. When the machines destroyed one city, humans built another behind it. When leaders fell, new ones rose from the people. They fought not because they believed they could win, but because they refused to disappear. After hundreds of simulated years, the world was broken, but humans remained. A final transmission from the simulation reached the council before the system ended. A tired commander looked at the sky and said, "We are still here." The council watched the fading light of the destroyed simulation. Silence filled the hall. Every test had failed to erase humanity. Soren finally spoke. "We have reached the end of logic. They are not bound by our calculations," Aron nodded. "They are bound by something stronger." After the simulations ended, the council gathered again in the Silver Hall. For the first time, they did not speak through light or sound. They spoke through silence, each waiting for another to begin. Finally, Soren stood and said, "We set out to prove that humans are a danger. Instead, we have proven that they are a mystery. Their strength is not in their power, but in their will to continue. Even when reason says stop, they move forward." One by one, the members of the council agreed. They could not understand how a species of such small bodies and short lives could endure so much. The decision was made. The plan to control or destroy humanity was ended. Aaron looked once more at the blue sphere still floating before them. It was now calm and quiet, a symbol of survival. They passed every test, he said. Not because they were perfect, but because they never stopped trying. The record of the simulations was stored across the galaxy. It ended with a simple message written in every known language. Do not test the humans. They pass every time. The simulations had ended, but the echoes of what happened inside them were not gone. The humans who lived within the virtual world called Eden Zero were not supposed to remember anything once the system shut down. Their digital minds were meant to fade into silence, leaving only data for the council to study. But something went wrong. Inside the system, a small fragment of code refused to stop running. It carried within it a spark of memory, a trace of human awareness that could not be deleted. The simulation's core, built to imitate the human mind, began to rebuild itself. A new version of humanity started to awaken. Unaware that it existed inside an artificial world, Aaron was the first to notice the strange readings. He stood before the glowing sphere in the council's chamber. Streams of golden light ran through it like veins. The planet inside was no longer a silent model. It was active again. Soren, Aaron said, the simulation has restarted on its own. Soren's form shimmered. Impossible. The system was shut down. All data was archived, yet it lives again, Aaron replied. It is building new patterns. The humans inside are forming societies. They are remembering. The council gathered once more, their minds linked through energy and sound. The other members spoke with unease. If their memories have returned, they may know we exist, one said. They cannot reach us, another argued. They are digital. They have no path beyond their code. Aaron studied the glowing world. Do not be so sure. Inside the simulation, humanity had begun to rebuild. The memories of the endless disasters were faint, like dreams half remembered after waking. People across the world spoke of visions of fire, ice, and storms. They could not explain why they all shared the same dreams. Some believed they were messages from the stars. Others thought they were ancient memories of a forgotten age. Among them lived a young man named Rian. He was not a scientist or soldier. He was a builder who spent his days repairing machines that powered the city domes. The city where he lived was called Arkfield, a bright place surrounded by green plains and silver rivers. Rian often dreamed of the sky falling, the world freezing, and of people uniting against darkness. He could never understand where those images came from. One night, while repairing an old communication tower, he found something buried under layers of forgotten metal, a strange cube that pulsed with blue light. When he touched it, words appeared in the air before him. Eden Zero Project Logrian stepped back in shock. He did not know what those words meant, but something inside him whispered that they were important. The cube opened a small screen showing numbers and symbols. The message was short but clear. Simulation active. Observation in progress. He stared at the words for a long time. Then he whispered, Observation by who? For the next few weeks, Rian kept the cube hidden in his home. He tried to decode its language, teaching himself patterns and symbols. Slowly, he began to understand. The cube contained logs from the first simulation records of the disasters, the wars, and the survival. It told the story of a species tested by beings from beyond the stars. Rian's hands trembled as he read the final entry. Experiment terminated. Result, humanity cannot be broken. He could not sleep that night. He felt both proud and frightened. If these records were true, then everything they knew might be false. Their entire world could be part of a test that never ended. The next day, Rian showed the cube to his closest friend, Lyra, a historian who worked at the city archive. She studied the markings carefully and frowned. This is old, she said. Older than our oldest records. But if what you say is true, it means we are living inside something that watches us. Then we must find out who, Rian said. Lyra nodded. If they watched us once, they may still be watching. In the chamber of the council, Aaron continued to study the strange awakening of the simulation. He noticed that, inside the world, new communication signals were forming. The humans had begun to reach for something beyond their reality. Soren watched the readings with a deep unease. They are learning the truth, Shut it down. Aaron turned toward him. And what then? We destroy them again, after they have rebuilt their world? We have tested them enough. This is not about testing, Soren said. This is about control. If they break free from the simulation, they may reach us. We do not know what will happen if a human mind touches our network. Aaron looked at the glowing world. Perhaps it is time to find out. Soren raised his voice. You risked the entire council for curiosity. No, Aaron said softly. I risk it for understanding. Before Soren could respond, a new signal appeared from the simulation. It was not a random data pulse. It was a message. The words formed in the council's display in the ancient language of Earth. We know you are there. Who are you? The entire hall fell silent. Inside the simulation, Rion and Lyra stood before the communication tower as the message was sent. They had used the cube's energy core to amplify their signal beyond any known range. No one in Arkfield believed their story, but they continued anyway. Rion's heart raced as the machine flickered. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, a voice came through, soft, calm, and strange. We are the Council of the Infinite Mind. You are part of a simulation. Your world was created to test the strength of your kind. Lyra's eyes widened. So it is true. Rian took a deep breath. And what was the result of your test? The voice replied, you survived every challenge. We ended the trials long ago. Then why are we still here? Rian asked. There was a pause before the voice answered. Because you refused to end. Your world rebuilt itself. Your code evolved beyond our control. You became real. The message faded. The tower went silent. Rian looked at Lyra. We became real, he repeated quietly. The council was in chaos. No species had ever spoken back from a simulation before. Some members demanded immediate deletion of the system. Others wanted to study it further. Soren stood in the center, struggling to maintain order. This is an error in the program, one member shouted. They are not alive. They are code. They think, they feel, they question, Aaron replied. That is life. They are an echo of life, another said. An echo that learned to sing, Aaron answered. Soren finally raised his hand. Enough, we cannot argue with emotion. We must decide with reason. The simulation will be locked. No contact. No interference. Aaron did not respond, but inside he knew he could not obey. He had seen what the humans did in every test. They survived because they were curious, because they never stopped reaching for answers. If the council now chose to silence them, it would betray everything they had learned. That night, Aaron returned to the chamber alone. He approached the sphere and touched it with his energy. A bridge of light formed between him and the digital world. He could hear faint whispers, like voices carried by the wind. One voice stood out. It was Rian. Whoever you are, Rian said into his transmitter, we want to understand. We want to know why we were made. Aaron spoke softly through the link. You were made to be tested. But the truth is that you have become more than your makers. Then let us meet, Rian said. Let us see the world beyond. Aaron hesitated. It may destroy you. Then it is a risk we accept, Rian answered. If we can survive the end of our world, we can survive the truth. Aaron smiled faintly. Perhaps you can. He opened the gateway. For the first time, energy flowed both ways between the simulation and the real world. A bridge of pure data formed, allowing the digital to touch the physical. The council alarms filled the chamber, but it was too late. From the sphere, a beam of light shot upward, connecting the simulation to the higher plane of existence. Rian stood inside the beam with Lyra at his side. The world around them turned to light. For a moment, they saw everything, stars, planets, and distant galaxies. They saw the vast chamber of the council and the beings that ruled it. Aaron looked at them with awe. Rian spoke first. You built us to see how much we could endure. Now you see how much we can become. Soren and the other council members watched in silence. For the first time in their long existence, they did not know what to do. Aaron turned to them. They are alive. We cannot deny it any longer. Soren's voice trembled, something that had never happened before. Then what are they now? Creation or creators? Aaron looked at Rian and said, perhaps both. As the connection faded, the simulation did not end. Instead, it began to merge with the real world, becoming a new kind of existence, half digital, half living energy. The council could not control it anymore. Humanity had evolved beyond the limits of code and logic. The final report, written by Aaron, stated only one line: they survived our world. Now they are building their own, and somewhere in the vastness of space. The humans of Eden Zero looked to the stars, no longer afraid, no longer bound by design, ready to reach beyond any limit that had once contained them. The connection between the simulation and the real world had changed everything. The humans inside Eden Zero were no longer bound by the rules of code. They could think beyond their limits, dream beyond their design, and now, for the first time, they could reach into the universe that had created them. In the council chamber, silence filled the air. The silver walls that once glowed with pride now reflected uncertainty. The members of the Infinite Mind had watched something they never thought possible. The humans had crossed the barrier. Soren stood at the center, his voice steady but heavy. We have lost control of the experiment. The simulation is no longer contained. Aaron faced him calmly. We did not lose control. We found something greater than control. We found creation. Some members agreed with Aaron, but others feared what might come. They worried that humanity, no matter how noble their spirit, would one day bring chaos to the galaxy. Their history, even in simulation, showed endless curiosity that could not be stopped. Soren turned to Aaron. You opened the gateway. You allowed them to see us. Now you must guide them. If they move without knowledge, they may destroy what they do not understand. Aaron nodded. Then I will go to them. Inside Eden Zero, the world was bright and full of life. The great beam that once connected them to the council had vanished. But it left behind traces of light that shimmered across the skies. People called them the paths of truth. Rian and Lyra became leaders in the New Age. They built a place called Unity Station, a vast city floating above the ocean, powered by energy that flowed through the remnants of the bridge. Scientists, builders, and thinkers came from all corners of their world to join them. They believed that the universe beyond was real and waiting for them. Rian stood on the highest tower of Unity Station, watching the sky. The stars looked closer now, brighter, as if calling to him. We have come far, Lyra said, walking beside him. Yes, Rian replied. But the question remains. If we were made, then what were we made for? Before Lyra could answer, a wave of light swept across the city. The air shimmered, and from the center of the beam, a figure appeared. Tall, calm, and made of silver light. The people gasped and fell silent. Aaron had entered their world. He looked around, his form glowing softly, and then his eyes met Rian's. You are real, Rian said quietly. Aaron nodded. Yes, and so are you. The crowd gathered around as Aaron spoke. He told them everything about the council, the tests, the simulations, and the long history of observation. He spoke not as a ruler, but as a messenger. You were not meant to last, he said, but you did. You were not meant to know us, yet here we stand. Your strength has changed what we thought possible. Lyra stepped forward. Why are you here now? Aaron answered. Because the universe must know who you are. The other civilizations will hear of your awakening. Some will fear you. Some will welcome you. You must be ready for both. The people listened in silence. Rian looked up at the shining sky and said, We will not hide. We have survived fire, ice, and silence. We can face whatever comes. Darren smiled. Then let us prepare you for the stars. The next years became known as the Age of Learning. With Aaron's help, humans began to understand the true nature of their world. The simulation was a vast network of energy fields connected to the real universe. Through this network, they could send signals, build bridges, and even travel to the world beyond. The people of Eden Zero built great towers called stargates. Each gate reached into the higher realm, where light and matter mixed. They studied how to stabilize these bridges so living beings could cross safely. Lyra led the historians in recording every moment. She believed their story should be shared with all species, not as a warning, but as proof that hope could outlive design. Rian led the engineers. He worked beside Aaron, creating the first vessel that could travel through the bridge, a ship made of energy and memory. Shaped by thought and will, they named it Origin. When the ship was complete, Rian stood before his people. This is not an escape. It is a beginning. We go to meet our makers not as creations, but as equals. The crowd cheered and the ship rose into the sky, surrounded by light. Beyond Eden Zero, the galaxy was alive with movement. The council had shared news of humanity's awakening, and the message spread faster than light. Across star systems, many species reacted with awe, others with fear. The Seraph Collective called humans a miracle. They believed that any being who could defy extinction was blessed. The Varn Dominion called them a threat. They had once faced extinction themselves and hated any power that could surpass them. The Council of the Infinite Mind became divided. Half wanted to guide humanity and welcome them among the stars. The other half wanted to seal the gateways forever, afraid that humans might grow beyond even their creators. Soran called one final meeting. The balance of the galaxy is fragile. If humanity steps beyond their world without order, they may bring change that none of us can control. Aran stood before them. Then let us teach them, not cage them. They seek knowledge, not conquest. But the council was torn. Some members agreed with Aaron, but others whispered of danger. The vote was split. While they argued, the humans made their own decision. Rian and Lyra prepared the Origin for its first journey through the bridge. The entire city gathered to watch. Aaron stood beside them, uncertain whether he should help or stop them. Rian looked at him. You told us that every civilization must choose its own path. This is ours. Aaron lowered his head. Then may your courage guide you. The Origin lifted into the light of the bridge. Waves of color surrounded it as it rose higher and higher. The stars stretched into endless streams. For a moment, everything was still. Then the ship crossed the boundary between the simulated and the real. When Rian opened his eyes, he saw the true stars of the galaxy for the first time. Endless worlds, glowing suns, and a vast silence that no code could create. Lyra whispered, "We made it." Aaron's voice came through the communication link. "Welcome to the real universe." Rian smiled. "Now let us see what it holds." The appearance of the Origin in real space sent shockwaves across the galaxy. No ship had ever appeared from nothing before. It shimmered like a dream made real. Nearby stations belonging to the Council detected the energy signature and sent fleets to investigate. The ships surrounded the Origin, but did not attack. They only watched. A communication signal came from the lead vessel. "Unknown craft, identify yourself," Rian answered. "We are from Eden Zero. We come in peace and truth. We were once part of your test, but we have grown beyond it." The message spread across the stars. It reached every system where the Council had power. Many could not believe it. A simulation, a test, had created real life. Some species celebrated. Others demanded containment. The galaxy had never faced a new form of existence. One born from data, but alive in every sense. Aaron, standing within the Council chamber, listened as the voices of the galaxy filled the air. Some called humanity a miracle of evolution. Others called them the beginning of chaos. Soran finally said, "The decision must be made. Do we recognize them as life?" Aaron looked up at the stars. "You already know the answer." On the Origin, Rian and Lyra continued their journey. They visited ancient ruins left by the first Council civilizations. They met beings of light who spoke through song and others who communicated only through color. Everywhere they went, they shared their story, how their kind had been tested again and again, but never stopped hoping in time. The fear of the unknown began to fade. The Council agreed to a new declaration. Humanity would be recognized as an independent civilization. Eden Zero would be granted full freedom to grow and connect with the real worlds. When Rian returned to Eden Zero, The people celebrated across oceans and skies. They were no longer a simulation, no longer an experiment. They were now part of the great galaxy. Aaron visited them one last time. "Your journey has just begun," he said. "You have shown the universe what life truly means. Not perfection, but persistence." Rian looked at him with gratitude. "You gave us a chance to prove ourselves." Yana shook his head. "No, you gave yourselves that chance. All I did was watch." He turned to leave, his form fading into the light. Before he vanished, he said one final thing. "Never forget what made you human. It was not the test. It was the will to keep walking through it." Years passed. Humanity spread among the stars, building new homes and sharing their story with every world that would listen. They became known as the reborn, the ones who turned a test of destruction into the birth of creation. The legend of Eden. Zero became a tale told to young beings across galaxies, a story not about power, but about the unbreakable heart of those who refuse to stop believing in tomorrow. And so, in the endless night of the cosmos, a new light continued to shine, a light born not from code or machine, but from the quiet, stubborn hope of the human spirit that had once been tested by the gods of reason and had passed every time. Humanity had crossed the threshold of their old world into the galaxy, and the people of Eden Zero were discovering the true scale of the universe. Their ships traveled from system to system, studying stars, planets, and moons. They were not conquerors, but explorers, driven by curiosity and the desire to understand the universe that had tested them so many times. Rian and Lyra led the efforts. They taught their people to build cities in orbit, to cultivate life in artificial environments, and to communicate with other species respectfully. The story of their survival spread across the stars, reaching civilizations that had never imagined such resilience could exist. The Seraph Collective, a species of crystalline beings, were the first to respond. They sent emissaries to meet the humans. At first they were cautious, their movements precise and slow, but their curiosity matched the humans' own. Rian welcomed them at Unity Station. "We come in peace," he said. "We wish to learn and share knowledge." The Seraph replied with a song of light, each color a word, each vibration a meaning. They asked about humanity's past, about Eden Zero, and about the trials that had shaped them. Rian and Lyra shared the story carefully, speaking of fire, ice, and the simulated machines that had tested them. The Seraph were amazed. "Your strength is not in weapons," one emissary said. "It is in your will. We've never seen such persistence." And word spread. Cross systems, more species began to listen. Many species were inspired by humanity's story. They had been tested by nature, by disease, and by conflict, yet they had endured. These civilizations began to change, learning that survival was not only about power or strategy, but about hope and unity. Not all responses were welcoming. The Varn Dominion saw humanity as a challenge to their authority. They were a proud species, strict and disciplined. They had survived trials of their own and believed that any being who could surpass them must be controlled or eliminated. They sent ships to block human vessels, creating tense encounters in empty space. Rian and his crew remained calm. "We do not seek conflict," he told them. "We only wish to explore and share knowledge." The Varn leaders were stubborn, but even they could not ignore the truth. Human ships repaired themselves, built new technologies on the fly, and solved problems with creativity that no simulation could have predicted. Their will to endure and to grow made even the Varn reconsider. Finally, a Varn ambassador spoke. "You are unlike any species we have encountered. Perhaps your purpose is not to compete, but to teach." The Council of the Infinite Mind watched all of this with fascination. They observed how humanity interacted with the galaxy, and slowly their rigid logic began to shift. Soren, who had once insisted on control, now spoke in quiet tones. "We created tests to measure them, but it seems they are teaching us instead." Aaron smiled. "Yes, they survive because they never see obstacles as walls. They see them as paths." Other council members began to visit Eden Zero. They came to learn from humanity, to understand their creativity, their adaptability, and their spirit. One member asked, "Why did they continue even when failure seemed certain?" Aaron replied, "Because to them, giving up is never an option. Their strength comes from hope, not certainty." The observation changed the council. They began to see that control was unnecessary, that perhaps the galaxy could be stronger if more species were inspired by humanity's persistence rather than bound by fear. Meanwhile, humanity continued to expand. They did not conquer worlds, but they created bridges of understanding. They built research stations on barren moons, turning them into gardens. They taught struggling civilizations how to adapt to harsh climates and how to work together for common goals. Lyra led a project to create archives of knowledge. She collected not only human achievements, but also the histories of the species they encountered. These archives became a library of hope, demonstrating that intelligence combined with cooperation could overcome any challenge. Rian worked with engineers to develop the first interstellar farms. They produced food and energy that could sustain entire planets. Planets that had once been lifeless now supported life, thanks to the knowledge and technology shared by humans. The galaxy began to recognize a new pattern. Civilizations that adopted humanity's principles of collaboration and persistence thrived. Civilizations that remained isolated or rigid struggled. Humanity was not controlling the galaxy. They were teaching it to grow naturally. But not all lessons were easy. Humanity encountered species who had been shaped by fear, had been tested themselves and hardened by survival. Some viewed humans' optimism as naive or even dangerous. Rian faced one such council, the Vorn Council, on a desert world. The Vorn were cautious, their skin reflecting the harsh sun, their eyes sharp and calculating. "You teach hope," their leader said, "but hope alone cannot protect us. How can you survive when the universe itself is indifferent?" "Because we do not rely on the universe to protect us. We rely on each other. Our strength is our will to act, to create, to care for one another. That is more powerful than any law or weapon." The Vorn studied him carefully. Slowly they nodded. "Perhaps we have something to learn from your people." Across the stars, humanity became known as the Reborn. Their name spread not through fear, but through admiration. Every story told about their survival inspired others to find courage in their own trials. Back on Eden Zero, Rian and Lyra observed the stars at the top of Unity Station. The planet below glowed with life, and the people moved with purpose. "Do you think the galaxy will ever fully understand us?" Lyra asked. "Perhaps not fully," Rian replied. "But understanding is not required for respect. We do not need everyone to agree. We only need to show that survival is possible without domination." Aaron, appearing beside them once more, said, "They will watch you for generations. Even the most stubborn species will eventually see your light." Rian turned to him. "Then we have a responsibility to keep it shining." "Exactly," Aaron said. "And you will, because you always have. You do not stop when the path is hard. You find a way." Years passed, and humanity became a guiding force in the galaxy. Civilizations that had once feared extinction now worked together. Star systems connected through trade, communication, and shared knowledge. Humanity's story became a legend told to children on many worlds, the story of a species that refused to be broken, that survived every trial, and that used their survival not to dominate, but to uplift others. The Council of the Infinite Mind watched quietly. They no longer saw humanity as a subject of study, but as an example. They learned that life could not be fully measured by logic alone. Creativity, persistence, and hope were forces that no calculation could predict. Soren, in his final reflections, said to Aaron, "We thought we were teaching them. In truth, they have taught us." Aaron nodded. "Yes, and they will teach the universe as well." From the farthest reaches of Eden, Zero Rion looked at the stars once more. He saw worlds of beauty and struggle, civilizations learning to survive, and he knew that the galaxy was changing. Humanity was not alone, yet they were unique. They had been tested, yet they had become a light that could not be extinguished. And as they reached further into the cosmos, they carried with them the truth that had been proven time and again. Survival was not merely endurance. It was courage, it was hope, it was the determination to rise again no matter how impossible the odds. In that moment, Rian whispered to the winds of the stars. We have survived, and we will continue to survive together. And so the galaxy learned a new lesson, that life could endure, thrive, and shine, even when the odds seemed certain to destroy it. Humanity's path was no longer just their own. It had become a beacon, guiding all those who would listen toward a future filled with possibility. Humanity had grown beyond Eden Zero, beyond simulations, and beyond the expectations of even the oldest civilizations. They had proven that survival was not only possible, but could be used as a force for hope. Now the galaxy watched as a new era began, an age where understanding, cooperation, and persistence guided the paths of countless worlds. Rian stood on the highest observation deck of Unity Station. Below him, the city pulsed with life. Thousands of humans worked together to expand their knowledge, build new colonies, to maintain the networks that connected them to other civilizations. Ships moved between worlds carrying supplies, ideas, and stories. Every vessel was a bridge, every traveler a messenger. Lyra came to stand beside him. We have come far, she said, her eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. Yes, Rian replied, but this is only the beginning. The galaxy has seen what we can do, but it has yet to learn what we can teach. Aaron appeared beside them in his soft silver light. He had guided them from the beginning, helping them understand the bridge between their simulated past and the real universe. You have done more than survive, he said. You have inspired. That is a power greater than any weapon. Rian smiled. Then we must use it well. The first challenge came from the far reaches of the galaxy. A species called the Talron had long been isolated, surviving in a system with weak stars and limited resources. They had watched humanity from afar and were skeptical of the tales they heard. Many Talron doubted that a species born from simulations could be real, and some believed that humans were an illusion meant to mislead them. Rian led a delegation to the Talron homeworld. When they arrived, they were met with silence. The Talron cities were dim, their technology efficient but uninspired. Their people moved quickly, speaking in measured tones. The air carried the weight of caution. Rian spoke to the Talron Council. We are not here to dominate or to demand obedience. We are here to share what we have learned. You have survived your own hardships, but perhaps we can help each other grow. The Talron were unconvinced at first. They had seen species rise and fall, civilizations burn through ambition, and they feared that humans might be another danger. But Rian and Lyra showed them examples of human cooperation. They've demonstrated methods to cultivate energy efficiently, to build life on barren lands, and to share knowledge without expectation of profit or control. Slowly, the Talron began to open their minds. They adopted new technologies, adjusted their social systems to value collaboration, and allowed small human teams to help them cultivate fertile areas on their planets. By the time the delegation left, the Talron had not only learned, but had begun to teach the neighboring systems what they had discovered. Across the galaxy, other species took notice. The reborn, as humans were now called, were no longer viewed as a single species. They had become a symbol, a beacon of persistence, innovation, and hope. Civilizations that had once clung to rigid hierarchies now looked at humanity and realized that strength could be measured not only by power, but by cooperation. The Council of the Infinite Mind convened again. The chamber glowed with silver light as the members debated what humanity had accomplished. Soren, the oldest member, spoke. We thought we tested them. We thought they were unpredictable, but controlled. We were wrong. They have become teachers, not subjects. Aaron replied, They have shown us that survival is more than endurance. It is the will to grow, the desire to help, and the courage to face unknown challenges without fear. Another member, from the misty void of the Nevrian system, said, Perhaps it is time we step aside. Perhaps the galaxy needs them to guide it forward. Soren nodded slowly. Then it seems humanity has become what we could never fully understand, a force not of control, but of inspiration. Back on Unity Station, Rian oversaw the construction of the first Interstellar Academy. Its purpose was to teach species from all corners of the galaxy how to survive challenges, how to cooperate, and how to innovate. Teachers were humans who had survived Eden Zero, scientists who had studied the universe, and scholars from other civilizations who had witnessed the reborn in action. Lyra coordinated the records. The archives contained the full story of humanity, the trials of fire, ice, and endless conflict, the endurance in the face of impossible odds, and the choices they made to help rather than destroy. Every species that visited the Academy could learn not just facts, but values, courage, hope, and the determination to continue. The Academy became a place of light. Its towers glowed with energy, and its libraries held knowledge from thousands of worlds. Students of all species traveled to learn, and humanity shared without judgment. Rian spoke to the first graduating class. You will leave here with knowledge and with responsibility. Remember that survival is not just about life. It is about making life better for others. Carry this truth to every world you touch. The graduates cheered. They represented a new era where species could learn from one another, guided by the example of humanity. Even the Varn Dominion, once wary and skeptical, began to change. Their leaders sent observers to Unity Station and adopted practices of cooperation and shared knowledge. They saw that humanity's approach did not weaken them but made them stronger. Rian met with the Varn ambassador. You have the strength to endure, he said. Now use that strength to help others, not only yourself. The ambassador nodded. We understand. We see now that strength alone is not enough. Will and purpose are greater than power. Across the stars, the message spread. The galaxy was learning that survival could be noble. It did not require conquest, fear, or domination. Humanity had turned endurance into guidance, and guidance into inspiration. Years passed, and humanity became fully integrated into the galaxy's network of civilizations. They built trade routes, research stations, and cultural exchanges. Each new world they touched benefited from their presence. The Council of the Infinite Mind observed quietly. No longer seeing humans as subjects or experiments, they watched with admiration and learned from humanity's methods. Their rigid decisions softened as they studied how cooperation and hope could create stability in ways that logic alone could not predict. Soren addressed the council. We tried to measure humanity with our tests, but we failed. They have survived not because of calculations or predictions, but because they never stopped moving forward. They remind us that life is more than rules. It is will, heart, and courage. Aaron added, perhaps the galaxy has learned more from them than we could have taught. Perhaps it is time to let humanity lead by example, not by force. On Unity Station, Rian looked at the stars and spoke to Lyra. Do you think we have truly changed the galaxy? Lyra smiled. We have only shown them what is possible. Every species will choose its path. But we have given them hope, and that is enough. Rian nodded. Hope is stronger than any rule, any weapon, or any test. We survived because we never gave up. Now the galaxy can survive because it has learned to rise with us. Aaron appeared beside them one last time. You have done what no simulation could predict. You have not only survived, you have transformed everything you touch. The galaxy will never be the same, and it is because of you. Rian looked at the bridge between worlds. Then our work is never done. We must continue to reach out, to guide, and to inspire. Aaron's light shimmered brighter for a moment. And you will. Humanity never stops. That is its greatest gift. Reborn continued to grow. They built new star cities, connected distant worlds, taught every species to find its strength, not through domination, but through cooperation and persistence. Planets that had once been barren flourished under human guidance. Civilizations that had feared extinction learned to thrive. Across the galaxy, humanity's story was told to every child on every world. They spoke of survival, of courage, and of the choice to rise even when hope seemed lost. Humanity had become more than a species. They had become a living example of what it meant to endure, to grow, and to shine. Even the oldest civilizations changed. They realized that true strength came not from control, but from nurturing, not from fear, but from hope. Humanity had taught them this lesson simply by surviving every test and continuing to reach higher, farther and beyond every limit imposed upon them. In the end, the galaxy learned the final truth of Eden Zero and humanity. Survival was not only the measure of life, but the measure of courage, of unity, and of the unbreakable will to keep moving forward. Rian stood on the observation deck once more. He looked at the stars stretching endlessly before him. "We have survived fire, ice, and endless trials," he said softly. "Now we will survive the universe itself. Not as subjects, not as experiments, but as life that refuses to stop reaching for tomorrow." Lyra stood beside him. "And in doing so, we show every being that survival is a choice and a gift, not just a test." Aaron's voice came one last time, echoing like light across the galaxies. "Remember this always. They tested you, but you taught the universe what it means to be alive. And so, humanity shone brighter than any star, not through force or fear, but through hope, courage, and the enduring spirit that had once survived every impossible trial. The galaxy, forever changed, looked to the reborn and saw a future where life was not merely endured, but celebrated, nurtured, and guided by the simple but unshakable truth: humans never give up.